we are then, Miami. The sun is shining. What a brilliant location, particularly when you see the prancing horse. And you know that just south of Miami, we're in for a treat when it comes to motor racing. Because we're at Homestead-Miami for the first round of the Ferrari Challenge. And it is our Coppa Shell drivers who will be taking to the track for their first race of what will be a phenomenal season. Of that, I've no doubt. Its paddock is littered with everything that's great about Ferrari, including the racing drivers and the racing cars, of course. And here we are, and there you can see the Coppa Shell cars are making their way around the track already. And we are in for a treat of a race. Coppa Shell Race 1 about to take to the track. Cyril Choksi did a brilliant job in qualifying. He's put the car on pole position. And the cars are out there on their installation lap, if you will. And they will be coming back into the pit lane to line up behind the safety car. And this is where we are then in Florida. What a great place to be in March. Well, I'm comparing it, of course, to somewhere where I live, where it's not as warm as it is here. It's beautiful. And Homestead-Miami, then, the first part of our calendar for 2023, which has some fantastic tracks. From here, we go to Cota in Texas and then Road Atlanta. Supporting the Formula One Grand Prix, of course, is in Montreal in Canada. Then it is Sonoma and Road America. Before all roads lead to Italy for the Finale Mondiale at Mugello in the wonderful Tuscan region of Italy towards the end of October. Homestead-Miami, then, it's a very technical track of some 2.2 miles or 3.5 kilometers, 15 turns. 11 of them are left-handers. 4 of them are right-handers. And it is the inner part of the track, the infield section, if you will, is very technical indeed. And it's quite hard on the tires, particularly when combined, if you will, with the temperatures that we have here in Miami for March as well. So we've had free practice sessions, we've had qualifying sessions, but right now this is where it really counts. It is the first race for Coppa Shell. Air temperature, as you can see, is 29 degrees. The track temperature is 33 degrees. Now, that will undoubtedly have an impact and an effect towards the end of the race, particularly if the drivers really push hard and take rubber from the Pirelli tyres. So all the cars are making their way down the grid, as you can see. And down there for us, bringing us all the activity down there, is Shay Adam. Good afternoon.
Hola, bienvenidos a Miami. It is very hot down here now at this point in time. I'll stop talking in Spanish for you, David. I don't want to confuse you at this point in the day. But even for a Floridian, it is getting quite warm. Yes, you're welcome. But for Cyril Choksi, this is exactly where he wants to be. Starting off the season with a pole position, coming back to a class, which he ran very well in last year, looking to try and carry the momentum forward into a championship potential standing. Now, he has pole position. He has the ideal line going into turn 1. Unfortunately for him, he's got some very tough competition. Alongside him will be Ray Acosta, a man who lives in Miami, calls this place home. His kids go to schools down here that I know very well, having been rivals to those schools back in my day. And behind him, Jan Bernier, a man who had a little bit of difficulty yesterday in the practice session, was given a hardship lap this morning before qualifying, and all of a sudden burst onto the grid, third in qualifying. So we've got the first 3 for the Coppa Shell categories to keep our eyes on, but we also have big stories back in Coppa Shell AM. We'll get to them, though, a little bit later on.
Very much looking forward to those stories, as indeed always I do. Shay tells a fantastic story and keeps us very informed, doing a great job down there. Thank you very much. So Coppa Shell drivers and Coppa Shell AM drivers forming the grid for what will be their first race of the 2023 season here at Homestead-Miami. It's a great shot that we can see here. You can see the very immense paddock behind the garages there as the cars are making their way to the installation area there, where they line up behind the safety car before their formation lap. They're taken for a full lap around behind the safety car, and then the safety car peels off into the pit lane, and then we go racing. But quite a lot to talk about before we get there. So a fantastic job done by Cyril Choksi to put it on pole position for the Shell drivers, and also Lisa Clark. Big up to Lisa Clark, who P1 for the Coppa Shell AM drivers. There you can see see the Lisa Clark car there, the 127 car with the orange and blue colour scheme down there, and she'll be hoping for great things in this race. Can she convert that P1 position from qualifying into the race win? Alongside is the all-yellow car, number 163. You can see there of Dan Cornish, having done a good job in qualifying. At one point, he was the fastest, but it wasn't quite able to make it stick. Lisa just besting him at the end of qualifying and taking that pole position. So there'll be a good bit of needle between the two of them, I'm sure, in terms of who's going to take honours in the race. So a lot to look forward to in this race. Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, then we've already mentioned the calendar going forward, and what a brilliant calendar it is, and it's a fantastic place to start the season down here, Homestead-Miami. And well, if the Coppa Shell race is anything like the Trofeo Pirelli race that we saw earlier on, we're in for a real thriller, that's for sure. There you can see everyone final stages of preparation before the race gets underway. Then 30 minutes of racing to come, and of course, to do that, the drivers need to start their engines.
And it's my duty to tell them, and they must obey. Drivers, start your Ferrari engines.
Who would not obey Shea Adam? Can't think of anyone brave enough, truthfully. And the drivers are going to start their engines then, ready for this formation lap to come behind the safety car. And what a big, big grid of cars. Now, to make identification even easier for you, the cars with a yellow sun strip across the top of the windscreen are Shell drivers. The cars with black strips across the top of the windscreen are Shell AM drivers. We have two classes within the same category, just to make you aware of that. So you can see that the yellow sun strips and the black sun strips, they identify whether the driver is a Shell driver or a Shell AM driver. The best of the Shell drivers from qualifying, Cyril Choksi. The best of the AM drivers, as I mentioned, Lisa Clark. So brilliant stuff. And the cars then, the final stages of preparation to get ready to go out on their formation lap. The Richard Mille safety car will lead them away for a complete lap of the track, and then the safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and then the cars will be side by side in grid formation, and rolling start as always as they cross and head towards the greens, and we will be racing. Fantastic stuff. Here goes the safety car then, and the cars are about to get away as well. The sense of anticipation and excitement rises and reaches fever pitch as we are ready to go racing. 30-minute sprint race from the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell drivers. So the race start officially then getting underway. Of course, we will bring you the grid in full in just a couple of moments. That is such a glorious looking car, that is. That is the Jerry Walters car that we saw just momentarily, the all pink bubbles car. Absolutely lovely. As promised, the grid in full. Cyril Choksi. Ray Acosta is alongside. They form the first row of the grid. Ahead of Jan Bernier and Cameron Root, then P3 and P4. They occupy row 2. It's Cesniak and Corley on row 3 of the grid. And to row 4, we find Voronin and Cleveland. They are P7 and P8. Viscup and Luli then occupy row 5, P9 and P10. Ahead of Naranjo and Dalton, P11 and P12. Surnames only, just so that we can get through the entire grid, because it's a big one. Haugen and Lynn are on the 7th row of the grid, P13 and P14, with McWilliams and Montfort then P15 and P16. Lisa Clark, the best of the AM drivers, besting Dan Cornish, going from P17 and 18, but of course P1 and P2 in class, ahead of Nunberg and Pereskoya, row 10. Row 11 is DiCarlo and Bernstein, and row 12 is occupied by Langberg and Goodwin. And then to row 13, where we find Jerry Walters and Camp, P25 and P26. So 26 Ferrari Challenge cars, 26 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo cars then. Heading around this tarmac here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. In the sunshine, there, the Richard Mille safety car leading the cars around. The cars will line up side by side, as I said, and the safety car has peeled off into the pit lane. It is the responsibility of Cyril Choksi and Ray Acosta then to control the pace of the rolling start. As we split the screen so that you can see the action. And The greens fly. Everyone is happy with that. And you can see Cameron Root really champing at the bit there to get going, and losing out is Ray Acosta because Jan Bernier dived to the inside. He's going to have the inside line going into this turn. However, the Ray Acosta tries to hold on to it, but runs out just onto the gravel a little bit and loses a little bit of momentum. And therefore, that means he loses out. So it is Jan Bernier up into P2. So we continue with a split screen shot here so we can bring you as much maximum action as we possibly can. But Surreal Choxy doing a very good job of getting away, but he was getting away from Jan Bernier, who has converted P3 into P2, and Cameron Root looking very, very lively as well. Lots of other movement going on. There is Mike Luley in the 112 car. He is heading at the moment the William Naranjo 116 machine that you could see, and the car's beginning to settle down. The first part of the first lap of this race. Tyres not quite up to temperature. It's going to take them a lap and a little bit to get the tyres fully up to working temperature so that they can get right into the order that they need them to be. And there you can see up onto the oval part of the track is the back straight here before diving back to the infield section here. And you have to be cautious not to carry too much speed at the moment because the grip afforded to you will probably be not where you want it to be. Jan Bernier controlling the car pretty nicely, but Ray Acosta is coming under some pressure from Cameron Root, and Szczesniak is not far behind either. So first lap is completed and put in the book, and Jan Bernier, the big winner on the first lap, moving up to P2, of course, and then the rest of the cars crossing the timing line now. Jean Viscap has done a good job getting by Voronin, and the best of the AM drivers is Dan Cornish, who managed to get by not only Lisa Clark, and Lisa Clark also Louis Perescoia managing to get past as well. So the order on the left-hand side of the screen, and once again the yellow and the black apply. So here you can see Dan Cornish, who is chasing down the 195 car of Paul Lynn. Now Paul is in a completely different class, but if Dan Cornish can get by Paul Lynn, it basically gives him the comfort cushion of knowing that he's got a out-of-place car between himself and his next closest pursuer. And there you can see a big dive from a little way back there. And Dan Cornish all of a sudden with Lisa Clark for returning company, because here comes Lisa Clark. It was a brilliant overtake, really taking her chances to dive to the inside. Did it really, really well. Dan Cornish late on the brakes, killing of the late breakers here. And Lisa Clark going through as well. And there you can see Paul Lynn losing out on 2-3 places in the race overall, but actually in class it kind of made no difference really. So it is Dan Cornish that he's leading, but he's leading now from Lisa Clark and Louis Perescoia. And absolutely brilliant racing going on here in the very, very early stages of this race, just 3 minutes into the race. So Dan Cornish and Lisa Clark, this is the fight for P1 in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell Am that we're watching at the moment. So Lisa Clark obviously having lost out right at the start of the race to Dan Cornish, and they had a real ding-dong battle in qualifying. And for the moment, though, it is Dan Cornish that is besting Lisa Clark in the race. But Lisa means business here, and the rear view screen of Dan Cornish is full of the orange and blue of Lisa Clark. So Lisa Clark then could not be much closer to Dan Cornish if the car was welded to it. So Dan is going to be under real pressure here, and is going to have to defend like never before, one would think, from Lisa Clark, who is absolutely determined to get that P1 place back again. The progress on the left-hand side of your screen, the big winners, as you can see there, Dan Cornish up, as you can see, some 4 places. Louis Perescoia also up 4, and then the big losers as well are indicated there as well, including the 1-2-3 car of Robert McWilliams. So there you can see the rotors lighting up on the Dan Cornish car as he continues to defend from Lisa Clark for P1 and P2. This is the battle that's going on in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Surreal Choxy has built a margin of 2 seconds over Jan Bernier as we just momentarily look at the graphics to give you an idea of what's happening in the Shell race. But we're staying with this battle, and wise we are too as well, because it is a compelling battle in Coppa Shell Am between Dan Cornish and Lisa Clark. And just see from my timing screen that Cameron Root has put himself ahead of Ray Acosta. Said he was looking very, very lively, and sure enough, Cameron Root is in a podium position at the moment. We're a long way from the podiums because we've still got 25 minutes of racing still to come. So Dan Cornish, for the moment, has seen off the challenge and charge from Lisa Clark. It's doubtless going to be revisited in due course. However, for the moment, there you can see the 132 car of Jan Bernier, and now Cameron Root, having found himself into that P3, is now chomping at the bit to find P2 here. So Jan Bernier is going to have to defend. Here comes Cameron Root taking a look at the inside. Racing room is left very gentlemanly by Jan Bernier, and Cameron Root goes through. And I have to say, that was a textbook overtake from Cameron, who just put himself into a position where Jan Bernier really couldn't defend from that. Good driving from Jan as well, though, who chose not to close the door. Closing the door would have caused a coming together between the two of them. So Cameron Root now is going to try and chase after, and you can see already the pace that Cameron Root has got, because he's opened up about 4 car lengths of space between himself and Jan Bernier in the space of just a few meters of tarmac. So where is Cyril Choksi now? 3 seconds up the road is the answer to that question. So now he's going to put the hammer down and try and get on terms with Cyril Choksi. Going to be interesting to keep an eye on the lap times to see what Cameron Root is able to deliver here. So Jan Bernier isn't done with this either, though, and of course Jan Bernier is having to defend as well from the likes of Szczesniak and Acosta and Lance Corley. Do bear that in mind. So still plenty of action going on. So there you can see the battle for P2, which is a 4-way fight between Cameron Root and Jan Bernier and Ray Acosta and Szczesniak. All lined up in a train there, really, aren't they? But Cameron Root is eking that gap between P2 and P3, so he's doing exactly what he needs to do, the Ron Tonkin Gran Turismo driver. Chasing after, and here comes Lisa Clark taking a look at the inside. Forgive me, I had to change my talk just for a moment because we switched from the Shell battle to the Shell Am battle, which is just as compelling. And you can see the margins between Dan Cornish and Lisa Clark. Now, the car ahead could come into play here, because Dan Cornish is going to have to get by that car. Now, the car we're talking about is the car of Thor Haugen, and here is Dan Cornish in the all-yellow car in the middle of this little battle. Thor Haugen is a Shell driver by dint of the yellow sunstrip across the top of the windscreen. Or Dan Cornish running just a little bit wide. Lisa Clark taking a look at the inside course and perhaps quite close enough to be able to make an overtake there. But certainly Dan Cornish is very much aware of the fact that Lisa is coming calling here. So what Dan really needs to do is to get by the car of Thor Haugen. However, he doesn't want to get by and leave himself vulnerable then to an overtake from Lisa Clark. Basically, if he's going to go for it, he's got to go for it and be absolutely committed to it. Lisa taking a look at the outside, running a different line, carrying a little bit more speed through the exit of that turn. That seems so she is able to really get onto the back of Dan Cornish here. Wants to get the job done early on. And this is very, very exciting. There's Cameron Root. Now, all of a sudden, Cameron Root's margin between himself and Jan Bernier is perhaps not as great as we initially thought, as, sure enough, Lisa Clark does go through on Dan Cornish. Now, I did wonder whether that car, the all-red car of Thor Haugen, would pull into play and come into play in this little battle, and I think it probably did, whether Dan was just a little bit too cautious. And Lisa Clark threw caution to the wind and was able to get through and has picked up the lead in the Shell Am race. And now seems to be stretching her legs somewhat over Dan Cornish. So it's all changed then, as P1 goes the way of Lisa Clark within class. P1 in the race overall is with Cyril Choksi, and Cameron Root is trying to break away from Jan Bernier so that he can concentrate on narrowing the gap to the race leader, Cyril Choksi. But whilst Jan Bernier continues to pose a threat to Cameron Root, then he's not able to do that. There is also the small matter that, Jan Bernier is quick and is in P3 at the moment. He's having to defend from Ray Acosta, and I think Ray Acosta is pushing them both on a bit here. And Ray Acosta just taking a slightly different line into that right-hander, taking a look at the inside of Jan Bernier, just if nothing else to psychologically worry Jan ahead of him and say that we are here and I am here and I am ready to pounce should the opportunity come my way. And don't rule out of this little battle the cars that are running right behind as well, and they are Ray Acosta and also the car of Frank Szczesniak. So, first 10 minutes of the race done. And just looking at that lap comparison, the graphic there, very, very interesting to look at that. See, initially Cameron Root had been able to break away quite nicely from Jan Bernier, but now it looks like he's got second wind, and he's doing that once again. He has certainly increased the gap, but the reason for that is Jan Bernier is having to defend from Ray Acosta right behind him. So that's playing nicely into the hands of Cameron Root, because whilst Jan Bernier is very busy from Ray Acosta and Frank Szczesniak right behind, that means that Cameron Root is able to just get up the road and try and get a little bit closer to Cyril Choksi, and indeed he is doing that, because the gap now between P1 and P2 is just on 3 seconds. It was significantly more than that just a couple of laps ago. And the last lap time from Cyril Choksi in comparison to that of Cameron Root means that Cameron Root is getting just a little bit closer, and you can see that Ray Acosta and Jan Bernier are having their own little lap time battle as well. And the lap times, lap 7, 6 and 5, you can see they've increased a bit. Now, please bear in mind, as I said at the beginning of the program, that tyre degradation is probably going to have an impact towards the end of this race, because the track and ambient temperature is so hot, the tyres having to work so hard. The more physical the driver is on the tyres, the more aggressive he is on the tyres, or she is on the tyres, means that grip, perhaps towards the end of the race, the grip that they had the lap before may not be there on the next lap. Shay Adam, down there in the pit lane for us.
We just had a visitor to the pit lane. This is not a very frequent occurrence during these Ferrari Challenge weekend races, but Jeffrey Numberg, with contact on the track, they said it was between 7 and 8 did race control. That's what ultimately pushed a little bit of bodywork onto his left front Pirelli. Came in, did a tire change, and that's the difference of having a very good crew behind you. HP Tech, who's helping out with Ferrari of Central New Jersey, the dealer for which Jeffrey Numberg represents in racing and in life, came in, put a new tire on, pulled the bodywork out a tiny little bit, and sent him on his way. Meanwhile, on the track, Lisa Clark charging on, setting purple lap times, which means that she is going the fastest of anyone in the class over and over and over again. So head down for Lisa Clark. And while we're talking about women in Ferrari Challenge, just a moment of shout out to a family member for Ferrari Challenge, Eileen Bildman, who normally competes in this series. She's watching at home right now. Eileen, we hope you get better soon, and we can't wait until you're back out here with us. Big Red, it's a hot day. You'd love it.
Absolutely, I concur. Eileen, we want to see you back out on the track. Get well soon. Right, this is Cameron Root then. And there is Jan Bernier, who's trying to make the car as wide as possible, because he is under threat now from the 107 car of Ray Acosta like never before. But you see, Ray Acosta, as he moves to the outside, he almost leaves himself vulnerable to an overtake opportunity or potential for Frank Szczesniak. So this is the trouble when you're in the middle of this little pack. You're hunting, but you're being hunted at the same time. You know, you want to try and get past the car in front, but what you don't want to do is leave yourself vulnerable to an attack from the car that's right behind, and that's the really unenviable position that Ray Acosta is in. And you can see now how Jan Bernier has been able to breathe just a little bit of a sigh of relief as Ray Acosta had to defend from Frank Szczesniak. Now here is our race leader, Cyril Choksi, for Ferrari of Denver. Now he has been able to put in some lap times that has seen off the immediate threat from Cameron Root, because the margin now is 3.5 seconds. So he's found 5/10 from Cameron Root, which, when you ask a racing driver, what's a comfortable margin to have between yourself and your closest pursuer? How long is a piece of string, Dave? You know, whatever time you've got, you always want more. 3.5 seconds is a reasonable margin, I would suggest. There is Cameron Root, who is in P2. There is Jan Bernier, who is P3. And there is Ray Acosta in the number 107 car for the collection, who is being chased hard by Frank Szczesniak from Ferrari of Tampa Bay. So lots going on. Lisa Clark, as Shay alluded to, setting really, really quick laps, and therefore is building up a good margin over Dan Cornish. Here is Ray Acosta then, P4, desperately wants to be on the podium. And what's stopping him being on the podium? It's the Jan Bernier car ahead. So we will see how this race unfolds in the second half, because the first half is just about done and dusted, as you can see from the clock at the top. 30-minute race from Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, and we are in to the second part of the race right now as the clock ticks down to 15:00. There is our race leader in Coppa Shell Am, Lisa Clark, and it's palpable now. You can really see the gap that she has created from Dan Cornish. I mean, absolutely driving like a demon now. I was with Lisa in the Middle East just a few weeks ago when she was racing in our Ferrari Challenge Winter Series, and she was doing really, really well there. But back on home turf, i.e. the USA and the North American Series, she's doing a great job. There is Dan Cornish. Louis Perescoy is running P3 ahead of Bernstein in P4, and you can see the order on the left-hand side of your screen for the Shell Am drivers, who are littered with other Shell drivers that are in the mix as well. There's Dan Cornish then. It was really good to watch in qualifying, because both Dan Cornish and Lisa Clark were trading times, and in the end it was Lisa Clark that bested Dan Cornish in terms of qualifying. Now Dan Cornish got past Lisa Clark right at the start of the race. However, she has come back good, moved up a great number of places following losing out right at the start, and now leads the race. This is the 188 car of Jerry Walters then for Ferrari of Vancouver, diving to the inside of the Neil Langberg car there, and going through on Neil Langberg and chasing down the 146 car of Dana Goodwin. So there you can see Walters going by on Langberg, that for P7 and P8 in the Coppa Shell Am class. So there is Goodwin then making contact with the back end of the Goodwin car, going around with that contact there from the Jerry Walters car, but thankfully the 146 car able to point in the right direction and get going again. But there we can see the consequence of that little coming together between the two of them. So there is the number 122 car that we are watching right now. And Cyril Choksy is continuing to lead, but his lead has come down again. And he's lost about 4/10 to Cameron Root, that we can see here in 199. And right behind Cameron Root is Jan Bernier and Ray Acosta and Frank Szczesniak, as it was just a few moments ago when we were watching it. And now you can see that Ray Acosta is under threat somewhat now. He's P4 place, with Frank Szczesniak running in P5. And these two are the closest out of these, this little gang of four, if you like, that are racing together and have been for pretty much all of the race, as Cameron Root heads now. And we get updated times from P1 to P2 of 3 seconds. And oh my goodness me, kicking up lots and lots of dust is Ray Acosta. So Ray Acosta then in all sorts of strife. Now the car is stricken across the track, all other drivers avoiding. Great work from the marshals there with the waved yellow flag. So Ray Acosta is stuck right in the middle of the track. He gets the car going and is able to try and move out to a position of relative safety so that all other drivers can avoid. And well done, Ray Acosta doing as quickly as he could to get out of harm's way. And I have to say, the standard of driving from Ferrari Challenge, meaning those drivers just able to react so quickly now. It was just one of those really, really disadvantageous things where he dipped the right-hand rear wheel into the grass, and that's Ray Neil Langberg that seemingly has perhaps made contact with the barriers by the angle of the rear wing, I would suggest. So. Yeah, back to Ray Acosta. He just dipped a wheel onto the grass, and as dry as it is, it's just so dusty. No grip afforded there, and there's no way you can control the car. And he did jolly well to brake it as soon as it was turning. It was just unfortunate. It was right in the middle of the track. Louis Perescoy, you can see they're chasing that car down now. So Cyril Choksy leading, but leading by less of a margin than he has done for a number of laps, and we have got a full course yellow right now. I'm not surprised by that. So full course yellow comes out. All drivers' speeds is significantly diminished, no overtaking, and there you can see the full course yellow flags are on display, and that means everyone just slows down, and the safety car comes out to control. And there you can see the Richard Mille safety car out on track for this full course yellow. Now, who does this benefit? Certainly Cameron Root. Potentially Dan Cornish, maybe, because we're looking at the leaders in each of the classes, and of course it does give perhaps renewed opportunities to the likes of Cameron Root. But there is Cyril Choksi, who has done absolutely nothing wrong all race long. There is the stricken 153 car, Neil Langberg, and where that car is positioned, that car is going to have to be recovered, which possibly will not be the work of a moment. We've got 9.5 minutes left on the clock. The clock continues to count down while we're in a full course yellow, and the safety car is out on track. So the race is effectively still running, but of course, absolutely no overtaking. Now, here you can see, disadvantaged by full course yellow and safety car are the likes of the leaders in each of the classes, because it allows the pursuers to get just a bit closer. So we will see how this plays out when we go back to racing, but I fear that's not going to be for a couple of moments, because they're going to have to try and recover that Langberg car. I can see that from the corner of our studio, which is situated up high on the main straight here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, I can see the recovery crew already there, working with great efficiency. So hopefully this is not going to be a long full course yellow. We will see. Cyril Choksi from Cameron Root from Jan Bernier. The top three in Coppa Shell. In Coppa Shell Am is Lisa Clark from Dan Cornish and Louis Perescoya. There you can see the car from the collection of the 107 driver. That's Ray Acosta, who of course had his own moment of drama, didn't he, when he got caught on the grass, and that just spat the car sideways. And thankfully, great awareness from all the other drivers that were following in hot pursuit, and they were able to make their way around the Ray Acosta car as he was stricken across the track for several moments. Right, let's go down to Shea Adam.
This gives us an opportunity to pay tribute to some of the drivers who've made their debut in Ferrari Challenge this weekend, and in some cases, Dave, their racing debut this weekend. Let's start out with James Camp. James is running in an all-black Ferrari with a pink roof. He's also got pink on his helmet. Well, this is very symbolic and important for James. His wife, Beverly, passed away last year from breast cancer, so he is raising awareness by using those colors to represent his car. This is his first racing weekend, and he met his coach, none other than Daytona 24-hour winner Scott Andrews, on Friday. They have bonded really well, and James going around not causing any trouble, learning what it's like to race door to door with other people. We've got another driver who's new to the championship this year, learning how to race again with other cars on track. That would be Mr. McWilliams. Robert, coming into the series, learning very fast. His coach, Matt Bell, said he is amongst the most coachable people that Matt has ever dealt with. This is a brand new car. And in addition, this 488 was one of the last ones to ever roll off the assembly line in Italy. So it has a little bit of extra specialness to it as well. They're running with the HP Tech team, a team that knows very well how to put together a car, but of course representing Ferrari of Washington for them, because for Mr. McWilliams, home comes in Washington, D.C. And I call him Mr. McWilliams because he has a very important job, so we pay tribute to him, Dave.
Yeah, Dave. There was no Mr. Richardson there, was there? Well done, and thank you, Shay, whose work on the Ferrari Challenge is to be applauded. She knows everything. She is my oracle, the person I go to for every single bit of information. Does such a great job. Very interesting, and well done, James Camp. That's all I'm going to say to follow up on Shay's story there. So the clock is ticking down. We're down to 6 minutes, and behind the safety car in this full course yellow. It's gonna be tight, I would suggest, as to whether we will get back to green flag situation with just 5 3/4 minutes remaining. We will see, but it is Cyril Choksi, Cameron Root, Jan Bernier, the top three for Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. For the AM drivers, Lisa Clark, Dan Cornish, and Lou Perescoya. That's the way it's looking. And we're right on the back straight now of this wonderful Homestead-Miami Speedway. You can see there, you could see there the huge tower and hospitality area that Ferrari have made their own for this weekend. In fact, Homestead-Miami becomes the Ferrari home for this first race of the 2023 season, and as always, Ferrari do it really rather properly. So the clock has ticked down to 5 minutes now, and I can see once again that the recovery operation, there is the very hospitality suite that I was talking about now. Very privileged to have the opportunity to use that. It affords such stunning views of the circuit. I had breakfast up there this morning, and it was really just enjoyable to sit there and have a breakfast and look at a motor racing circuit when it's the passion of ours that it is. It's a wonderful place to enjoy some time, which I did this morning, and well done to Ferrari for always making us so very welcome. There we're looking at the car of Darren Bernstein, and in the 169 car that we can see there. So I love the lilac on that black. It looks so good, and having a really nice chat with Darren at a welcome dinner in Miami last night, and the Ferrari of Washington driver, and having a great chat with his son as well. So great social occasion that was held last night. It was really nice. So with this, there we can see the 106 car of William Naranjo. Now, William Naranjo, who is currently running P9 in the race for the collection, and that's P9 in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell, and P9 in the race overall, because the top 10 places are occupied by Coppa Shell drivers. Lisa Clark, who's P11 in the race overall, is the leader, and you can see her car middle of the shot now. She is leading in terms of Coppa Shell AM. So for Ferrari of Beverly Hills, and setting some very quick lap times before the full course yellow and safety car were brought out, and building up a big margin over Dan Cornish. We're going to take a look at some replays in just a couple of moments. There is Lisa Clark that you can see. Now, this, the replay of the start, just watching what goes on here, and on the second image you can see there, because we've split the screen, that was when Ray Acosta, on the first image that we were looking at, or the first screen, where he ran really wide. And of course the top right hand image that you're seeing is the live image of us behind the safety car. This was Lisa Clark then coming back to bring the battle back to Dan Cornish, which she did with aplomb, and she really meant business and was looking for the perfect opportunity, and found that perfect opportunity. Now, I was saying earlier on about how if you're trying to overtake a car, you can leave yourself vulnerable, and Dan Cornish did get by that car, and then Lisa Clark did as well, and then the fight was on. And here you can see how Jan Bernier lost out to the car of Cameron Root. Cameron Root with just a perfect textbook overtake, put the car in the right position at exactly the right time. The very gap that Jan Bernier wanted to turn into was occupied by the car of Cameron Root. Here was Lisa then, and the back marking car would play a part in this. I say it's back marking, it's not back marking, it's in a different class, but Lisa spotting the opportunity when to go by Dan Cornish, and I did mention live at the time whether this car would play into the battle, and here it was just being really late on the brakes, and had confidence in the grip afforded to her, and was able to go through and pick up that P1 place in class. Brilliant job done. So Neil Langberg then, his is the stricken car there. We could see there on those live pictures, receiving the attention of all the crew down there a little bit earlier on. I can tell you that the information I have is that the car has been loaded, so that Neil Langberg presumably is okay. And we are into the last lap, and unfortunately the last lap is going to finish behind the safety car and behind this full course yellow, which is never how we want the race to end, but driver safety is of the most importance, of course, and whilst there is a stricken car still being recovered, there is no other alternative, unfortunately. So Cyril Choksi is going to take his victory behind the safety car, and that will be the case for Lisa Clark as well for the Shell drivers and Shell Am drivers. Here come the checker flags then behind the safety car. And well done to Cyril Choksi. As I said, he did all the hard work in qualifying, and he takes the win for Coppa Shell, and it is going to be Lisa Clark who will take the win, and there is Lisa Clark's car now crossing the line to take the win in Shell Am. So there we have the order with Cyril Choksi, Cameron Root and Jan Bernier, the top three for Shell drivers. For the Am drivers, Lisa Clark, Dan Cornish and Louis Perescoya. And there is the 173 car of Cyril Choksi. Many congratulations to Cyril then, doing a very, very good job. And less is more was what Cyril was saying earlier on with regards to how he was going to or the strategy he was going to adopt for the race, and that's obviously paid off really rather nicely. So, Shea Adam then, we never like to see a race finish behind the safety car in a full course yellow, but just sometimes it happens, and that's what's happened today. But nonetheless, I mean, I think I've seen some extraordinary driving. Now, Lisa Clark has been like a thing possessed this afternoon.
Yeah, and Dave, honestly, it would be a little bit more hollow if it hadn't been so well earned by the two drivers who are going to be standing on the top step of the podium. Cyril Choksi driving away from the competition when the caution came out, and the same thing for Lisa Clark, setting purple lap times over and over again. For Cyril Choksi, though, this is an even more meaningful win because last year he only got one podium finish. This year, he's starting off with a podium finish. It's not a bad day. And then for Lisa, she got a win at Imola last year. You were there to bear witness to that. But this is a win on American soil. That's different.
Yeah, that's very special, isn't it? And we can see the car making its way into the pit lane right now. So there we have it. I have to say, you know, sometimes, Shay, you... and we get enthused, we get very, very excited about the first day of the season, you know, and sometimes it's a bit like going back to school, isn't it? You know, sometimes the excitement can become overawed. Yeah. No. But the racing has been this afternoon, I think, has been extraordinary.
Agreed. It was really tough-fought competition in both of the classes. We had good passing, good effort to try and maintain the lead. And even if we go back to the Trofeo Pirelli races, it's been a really good day. It set the bar high for the season.
I think you're absolutely right. And what a season we have in prospect as well. And if you can spare me the time, I want to talk about that because COTA, we know all about COTA, and that's where you and I first met and worked together. Then Road Atlanta, Montreal, Sonoma. And Sonoma and Road America are two very, very different tracks, and tracks that I've never been to. So I'm so looking forward to that. But we'll perhaps talk about that another day because I can see Cyril Choksi is jumping out of the car now, and you're going to want to join in and get to him. I know just how efficient you are.
For sure, Dave. But I find it funny that you've picked the two tracks of wine and cheese, respectively.
Now, whatever sort of a painting are you trying to make of me? I mean, really?
Nothing.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
You couldn't possibly know that, having not been to them yet.
Oh, you really are too kind, and a wonderful fibber as well. So we know that Shay, thank you for talking to me. We know that Shay will be now trying to get hold of Cyril Choksi and also getting hold of Lisa Clark. And there you can see Cyril Choksi being congratulated. And there you can also see Lucio Vigani, who's head of Pirelli Motorsport for the Ferrari Challenge, down there as well. We'll be seeing him on the podium, I expect, with the Pirelli Awards a little bit later on when we have our podium ceremonies. We'll take a look at the confirmed results before I get myself into any more trouble. Here they come now with the grandstands as a backdrop here. Cyril Choksi ahead of Cameron Root and Jan Bernier, the top three. Then it's David Voronin, Lance Corley, Frank Szczesniak, John Visca, Bruce Cleveland, William Naranjo and Matt Dalton. They are the top 10 in Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell. And then we see the best of the Am drivers, Lisa Clark ahead of Dan Cornish and Louis Perescoya, to take nothing away from Mike Luley, Thor Haugen and Ray Acosta. And then the rest of the order, as you can see. Regrettably, the full course yellow and safety car brought about by seeing Neil Langberg's car stricken on the grass. But thankfully, all the information we have is that everything is perfectly okay. It's never the way we want to finish a race, but driver safety is priority number one. Cyril Choksi is P number one.
for the first time ever, Cyril Chotsky, race winner. How does this feel?
Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
In terms of your kids, I know that both of them are getting in racing too. This is the perfect example to show them that they can do it, right?
That's exactly right. And they're not here with me this weekend. And so this is for them. This is for my wife. This is for the family and all the support. It's amazing. So.
Well, now you've got one first place trophy. If you get another one tomorrow, does that mean one for each of the boys?
One step at a time.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
You tried very hard to get a commitment there, didn't you? But it wasn't going to happen. Brilliant stuff. Well done for catching up with Cyril Chotsky so quickly. And yeah, one step at a time. He's very cautious, isn't he? You know, when we were speaking to him ahead of, I think it was just after qualifying, it was less is more, less is more. I'm going to remember that. So well done to Cyril Chotsky then taking the victory here. And as he says, thanking the family and the support, which of course is so important to all of us that go racing and love what we do. So great to hear from Cyril Chotsky, winner for Ferrari of Denver, for Ferrari Challenge Shell. And now let's see how Lisa is feeling. The Shell Am race winner, she is with Shay.
Winner for Ferrari of Beverly Hills. This has been a long time coming on American soil. Lisa Clark, what's it feel like to be a winner?
Oh my gosh, it's pretty, for me, it's incredible because, I don't even know what to say. I had a great battle with my buddy over there, Dan Cornish, who's so fast. And I finally was able to kind of make a move and get by him. And then it pretty much sealed the deal. But then we had the yellow flag and But yeah, I had a great day, really, from quali all the way through now. So I'll take it.
Congratulations on win number one. Can't wait for win number two.
I hope. We'll see. Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, Lisa Clark is a absolutely wonderful racing driver, but wonderful person as well. Whenever I've gone to Lisa Clark, oftentimes with racing drivers, the last thing they want is some loon like me with a microphone saying, but Lisa is always very, very accommodating and always very happy to speak to us, which is really kind. So there we have it. The Coppa Shell race is done and dusted. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, we've got qualifying and races to come tomorrow. But before that, the podium program will be on air shortly this afternoon as well. Thank you so much for watching. From Shay and from myself, goodbye for now.